Shotgun to shotgun.
Doc
Martin weeks ago, and when I explained to him that Hubert Harrison, he developed the red, black, and green flag, but Marcus was so sharp, he took that concept, and he blew it up. You know what I'm saying? As a matter of fact, Hubert used to work at the Negro World. He worked for 2 years, but after he left, he was one of the petitioners to get Marcus out of here. So he was unfortunately. But and that goes to us teaching history at school. We don't necessarily teach a romanticized view of our leadership and our heroes. We have to be, even with our youth now, you have to be very succinct in your descriptions and in your mental development on their capacity, because they're able to identify contradictions and blatant contradictions too. So we must do that. We teach a lot about Black Panther Party going in, because the thing that's unique about the party and teaching that history to the children is they identify with guns. That's just how we are. What I'm saying? So when they see the picture on my wall with Huey, the spear and the pistol, they automatically want to know, what is that? Who is that? So when we talk to them about the historical relevance of the Black Panther Party and the programs that they created in the neighborhoods, that's the most important thing. The programs, and of course, defending our people is another. But what makes the party so attractive to youth is the same thing that made the party attractive, to the youth in 67, and 68, and 69. The activity. What I'm saying? So, free healthcare clinics, sickle cell anemia clinics, safe programs, housing programs, free lunch, free breakfast. All those things resonate with the youth, because the youth are now becoming more active. And what activates that activity, as Field Marshal George Jackson say, it's the focal motor. It's the establishment. The more pressure the establishment puts on the youth, the more outward there's a display of sometimes violence, sometimes organic, and sometimes inorganic. And what we've been seeing now, there's an inorganic element to this violence that we're seeing now in so-called rebellions. So some come from legitimate sources and some don't. So teaching all those things, all those elements, it makes history more practical than something that's 15, 20, almost 50 years ago. And we also teach about, of course, the relevance and the significance of being African and African history, coming from Sheikh Diop. We're reading Sheikh Diop now. The first chapter we're reading in our history class, and he talks about the first African to migrate out of Africa. The children thought that was fascinating. Who was the Grimaldi man that Diop talked about? Who was the Cro-Magnon? Who is that? So all those things we need to expose our children to. Why? Because they can elevate to that level. But as long as we believe that it's too hard and it's too difficult for them to learn extensive pronouncements of history, we lose the battle, because they have an opportunity at our school to ask any questions that they want. And oftentimes they teach me. So with their questions, I learn a lot from their processes and how they develop their thinking, and teaching them how to think. Comprehension is very important in our reading classes too. So yeah, I know I talked a lot. We got any questions on the school, the curriculum? Why is history important? I see little sis got her hand up in the back. That's all I see. That's all I see now. Since April, all I see is little brothers and little sisters on the screen now. And I'm not used to that. That's new to me. I'm used to walking up to them, putting my hand on their shoulder and seeing how fast their heart beat. That's what they used to do to me. My teachers put her hand on the back of on my back and see how nervous I was. I like that. I like to get that energy from the in-person class exercises. This whole internet thing is a little new to me, but it has its benefits. Little sis in the back, you got a question? That's Sundiata. Those your beautiful girls, bro. You on mute? I can't hear you.
Hi.
How you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. How you feeling?
Feeling good. I'm feeling all right. I'm feeling good.
Oh, wait a minute. Y'all my students.
Yes.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Look, I'm so used to y'all being close on the screen. I haven't seen y'all back that far. And that's my first time seeing your dad. I hear his voice all the time. So how did y'all do in y'all test today?
I'm better than others.
Oh, okay. Now I'm used to seeing your face. If you'd have showed your face, I'd have recognized the girls. But you got, where's Nefir? All right, get on the screen. Get on the screen, right. So this family just completed their first week at Freedom Home Academy. So how did you like it? What's going on? Give me some feedback.
I'm gonna stay here forever.
Oh, okay, yeah. I know it was some nights you wish I ain't come to class, right? All that homework I'm giving you, all those vocabulary words.
I often threaten them if they do good, I send them back to the occupation.
Say it again, I didn't hear you.
I threaten them if they don't do good, I'm gonna send them to public school.
Back to the occupation school.
I hear that. No, they doing well though. They doing well, cause look, what I tell the parents, and I tell the audience too, it actually takes 3 or 4 weeks. It does. And to be honest, it takes that long because everything is so different. Even with homeschooling. Homeschooling and homeschoolers, they do a great job, but I think when they come to freedom, it's so much information condensed, right? It's really, everything is popping every second. There's something to do. That's not too much time to sit back and lag, and maybe I'm gonna go to the refrigerator, grab something to drink. I'm gonna grab a sandwich real quick. Everything is, there's Nefir. Nefir, how was the physics test today?
Good.
All right, no problem.
No.
All right. Okay.
Hi.
That's great.
They're not, they like it. They definitely like it. Because you reinforce what we want, high intelligence. So they see other than just me and I talking.
Yeah.
So from what the teachers, they do. They like it. Like I said,
That's
they're
good.
very upset when I tell them I'm sending them on the bus to school. They have to wear masks. They be stupid.
They don't want that. They don't want the public school scene. They don't want that. They don't want that at all. But I would say this. I know with Nefir, since her class, it's only like about 5 or 6. No, it's about 8 or 9 in that class, right? I see her the most.
Okay.
Because with that small group is thick. It's like 35 of them in there. But with Nefir, I see her a lot, and I see her working. And sometimes when it's time for her class, I ask her. I say, "You heard me in the background in the other classes getting on your sisters, right?" She's like, "Yeah, I heard you. I heard you getting on them in the background." And the reason why I do that is sometimes, the younger students, they think it's fun, and it could be, it can be fun, but I don't want to be considered a fun instructor. That's not. I have some at the school that's fun. I'm not really like fun. I want to run my classroom very regimented, right? Because that gives them very little room to be silly and play games, right? If I control the environment, and it's a challenge controlling the environment on virtual. So sometimes I have to project my voice, kind of like sit down, like that type of thing, and it gets some, oh wow, okay, so I'm not really joking around, right? So sometimes I have to do that. Oftentimes students look at that as I'm being mean. I'm not. I'm just getting trying to control the environment a little bit more. So they'll get used to it.
You want the attention of their mind.
Right. Not the other way around.
That's what I had to do with the youngest two in martial arts training. If you're not going to listen, I'm not going to let you waste the time of the sequel.
Right. And you know what? The children are very sophisticated because oftentimes they will ask me an open-ended question, and they looking at the clock too. It's okay, we're done in 15 minutes. I'm gonna ask Baba Marcus an open-ended question, and if he answers, it's gonna take him about 7-8 minutes, and we almost leave. So nah, I don't do that. No talking on the mic. You know, instruction is first 35 minutes. So the regiment is important to me. Baba Oba, what's happening?
Thank you very much. I'll give somebody else a chance.
Okay.
Ashe.
Ashe. So I think too, when we start to, and I talk about this often, we have to learn and to teach our children to write lesson plans. Write lesson plans and show them how to write curriculum, because, you know, we speak about it a lot, but we can never speak about it too much, is because we need to dissect a lot of those books that we have in our coffers, in our library, a lot of it that we read all the time, and our children should be able to read those as well. And they can. So let's make a challenge. Get your favorite history book off the shelf and develop a 6-week lesson plan, right? A 6-week lesson plan for a 3, 4, and 5-year-old child. Why is that important? Because if you have read that book and you have attained that knowledge from that material, why shouldn't your son and your daughter at 3, 4, and 5 be able to attain that same knowledge? Because we've been oftentimes, even myself, we get trapped in that age thing. We get trapped. Oh, he's only 5. You know, there's a limit to what he can do at 5. Says who? Who created that paradigm? Who gave you that information and those so-called facts that would diminish your ability to develop your child, right? It's the whole same thing with grades. You know, first grade, he has to be 7. Second grade, he has to be 8. Anything he's doing past 8 years old, it shouldn't be in the 3rd grade, because that's too hard, right? So at Freedom Home, we don't do that. There's a 1st and 2nd grade group, they work together. And why is that important? Because that 2nd grade tier, they're more advanced in the 1st grade. They learn from the 1st graders, learn from the 2nd graders. So when their hands are up, the 1st graders look, they say, I wanted that too. I want my hand to go up too. So I'm gonna start studying. So then those 2nd graders, they pass the criteria to move on to 3rd grade. They get assessed and they move. We don't keep them, because some parents want to do extra work at home. So if they're in the 1st grade and they know timetables, why do I have them in the 1st grade? If they can pass an assessment, let's get them out of there. Let's go to the 3rd grade then. Let's assess them for 3rd and move them on if they can do that too. So when parents ask me, how do your children graduate at 15, 16? Well, we know the criteria for colleges is low anyway, because we're under the belief, that's a misconception too. Oh, college, you know, they got to be at least 17, you know, to pass the SAT. What? No, we start them studying the SAT in 5th grade. 6th grade, they doing SAT. 6th grade, we doing SAT. It's $29. Take the test in March, take it again in June. We do it twice a year. Hey, you meet the criteria, you graduate. I had a little brother came, I posted him on Facebook. Okay, Jesse, his dad brought him in the 5th grade. He was like, Bob Marcus, I want you to get him ready for high school. How difficult is that gonna be? I said, well, let me assess him, right? He's 5th grade. I assessed him in 5th grade, he wasn't ready. He was doing 4th grade math, 4th grade reading. So we drove on him. Boom, boom, boom. 3 years, right? So 3 years, that was 5th, 6th, 7th grade. He passed the selective enrollment test. He going to high school. He skipped a grade up. But the important element with him was he wanted to do it. He was hungry. He was hungry. He saw the other group, the group that was ahead of him. He kept asking me every week, Baba Marcus, when you gonna give me an assessment to get into the next group? I said, well, hold on, big fella. You gotta do your work right now. He said, I've been studying. Give me an assessment. He driving on. I said, okay. Gave him an assessment. He did okay, but his father told me he put that assessment on his wall. He put the assessment on his wall. I didn't know any of this till he came by the school the other day and told me. He said, I put the first assessment I did very poorly. I put it on my wall and I worked toward that, and he did it. He came out of there. we have our law program is taught. I think Nefir. I think you have Judge Turkington, right? Who has Judge Turkington? None of y'all? Well, she teaches the law program. She's a retired. Oh, who is that? Sekhmet? Nefir. Okay, right. So she's a retired circuit court judge, 30 years on the bench, right? So she teaches the law program at the school, right? She said Jesse was the most industrious worker that she's ever had. All he did was ask questions, do extra work. How can I get to this next group? I want to go to your class next semester. So what we try to do, and it's not always easy. It's matter of fact, it's rarely easy. It's rarely do I get a student like that. But they are, it's a fervor that's almost innate that they want to be the best. They want to do well. And then I have some students that really don't. He's considered, and those students are considered overachievers. They just it takes them longer to develop in a particular system that he was in. Then he flipped over to my system, and it was such a contrast in what he had already been taught how to do things. It took him longer, and he worked harder. But I have some students, it just comes natural. This is just natural. So they study, words come to them faster, and they do better faster. But just him as an example, he wasn't an exceptional student, but he had the drive. He had the will to do better. So we try to do different ways and means to get students and pull that out of different students. But sometimes it takes longer. And it's not really a blueprint for that type of thing because it's very hard for us to teach how to become self-motivated. But yeah, we got the accelerated program. It's been working. It's been very highly effective, but it's not a perfect system. It's not perfect at all. We have a very high turnover. Like I was telling the sis yesterday, we might start in the fall with 150 students. Next June, we might have 120. I mean, that's just how it works. It's a lot of work, and oftentimes it exposes some deficiencies at home. So sometimes parents they've admitted they get embarrassed. I wasn't ready. Can I come back in a couple of years? And it works. But what I always tell parents that have that type of attitude, we must inject into our children what we want. But how do we know what we want? Now we have to figure that out. What I'm saying? We want a nation build, right? But have you developed something practical in your house that will assist you in this idea of nation building? What have you created? That's not a knock, because even with myself, I have to reevaluate some things around my house. Why is my son room junky? Well, look at mine. What I'm saying? So his room junky because mine is. So I have to change the things about myself in order for my children to change and be proper in how they act. I have to change me. So sometimes when you put that mirror on yourself, it ain't easy. So sometimes we don't want to do it. And oftentimes I would say, the result is what we see on the block. What I'm saying? Our children, they respond to that. They respond to, like we said before, those contradictions, and they respond to them in a negative way. So having an African-centered program, it's important. It's important for a lot of reasons. Those African concepts, they create what we call guideposts. So when we inject in these African concepts into our children, they use, but the reason why we set them up that way is when it's decision-making time, how are they going to use those concepts that we taught them to help them make better decisions, right? And that goes for way of life, studying, and just basic discipline. We get that from our African concepts at the school. Any other questions for me? Brother Sundiai, what you got? Who was that, Patah? What kind of question you gonna ask me, Patah? You see me every day. You on mute, I can't hear you. I'll go back. You still on mute, I can't hear you. Still can't.
There we go.
Go ahead.
Yeah, what y'all wanted to say? Okay. Did you, I hear that looking into schools in Tanzania.
Yes.
Did you ever get in touch with Mr. Saeed?
I didn't, brother. I didn't, man. I just looked through my notebook and I saw that name you gave me. I still haven't done that. I am though. That's my word. I definitely will.
Is he'll probably be a great brother to get in contact.
Yeah.
Especially with the high. That's what I was so I wanted them to go to the school because I was hearing how those 7, 8, 9 years old tell you everything about the body like they were in school.
Yeah.
And I said, that's what we need.
Yeah. And see what that does, not to cut you off though, brother. But what that does is, and quite a few parents, they get concerned because they ask me, why are they learning about anatomy? Like what? So when we first developed that part of the program, right? I was disillusioned because I actually believed wholeheartedly that all the parents, once I laid this out, all the parents would gravitate to it, right? Because I thought it was a foregone conclusion. I thought it was a no-brainer. Like, oh wow, like we're gonna do a genetic program, and it's gonna take us to microbiology. It's gonna take the students into dissection, and it's gonna take them to advanced biology early 3rd and 4th grade, right? So we rolled it out to school. We had a big meeting at the school, right? So the parents, they looking at me like, okay, hold on now. They looking at me like, okay, so how are you gonna teach pre-med to a 3rd grade? So again, I was disillusioned because I obviously thought that, track record will allow me to roll something out and they would ride with me, right? They will understand how I thought with and the students and how they thought, and we could bring that together and we could do a very strong curriculum with the pre-med, right? So I had like maybe 30% of the parents, they were concerned because they didn't think their children could do it. And I had to remind them, don't forget, these same students are doing sometimes 3, 4 grades up. We got a 10-year-old Tiara who's doing algebra 2. We got a little sister named Chris who's 11. She's doing algebra 2. Her parents are talking about the only way she would be in high school is if she stays 1 year in the 9th grade. So we can do it. 5 years. These young sisters have been with me for 5 years. And I can put them in a high school class. They're 11, 10 and 11. I can put them in any high school class right now in the city. Some of the better high schoolers right now and go head to head with them. So yeah, again, I was disillusioned with that. So the anatomy.
A lot of people are, like you say, the parents, mothers and fathers, they don't know their potential.
Right.
And I take things like sometimes I go back to Wall Street, like Wall Street.
Yeah.
If we was doing it then, we can do it now.
Absolutely.
But they had that mindset. They had that high genius.
Yeah, that's right.
And I said, don't you ever put yourself down as a people.
That's right.
Can't do that.
But see, Amos Wilson talks about it in depth in his first 2 books. And we know that what he said, whatever we teach a child will reverberate for the next 7 generations, right? So that's either good things and bad things. So we teach our children to limit themselves, even subconsciously, overtly, when we tell them to limit themselves. We do it. I see it done all the time, overtly. Even parents that want the best for their children, subliminally, they're telling their child this is too hard, oftentimes, right? So, and that's what the meeting that I gave in 2017 was mostly about Marcus. We trust you though, but can you really do this? Can you really do it? So I'm like, man, we're gonna do lab coats. The children will have lab jackets on. They're gonna wear scrubs on Friday to do it. Whoa, wait a minute. But I got like, even today, I got 75% of my parents, they ride with me no matter what, because they trust me. The other 25, they kind of like, I don't know, right? And then out of that 25, you got some that's waiting for me to fall. You know, that, and that's something interesting too, that we need to start having discussions with. You know, how, you know, we got some parents that's there. I think their love for their child does not eclipse, you know, their disdain for a black man teaching their child. You know, that's heavy. And
That's Stockholm syndrome. I've
talked about that in depth, brother. And I'm not even saying that lightly. That goes on at the school consistently, right? And it's not just me being paranoid. That's just how it works. But at the same time, I think that has a lot to do with my persona too. You know, I got kind of like it's a different persona when people meet me.
You got a real persona, you know. And some of these people stuck in Stockholm syndrome.
They Stockholm, no question. But see, as leadership, and I understand as leadership, I have to adapt, right? We have to find points of unity. So when people have problems with me, is it a problem with Marcus Kline or is it a problem with my philosophy? Because if it's any of those two, any contradictions made by me against you, we can work that out. But contradictions between us and the state, we can never work that out. Because by understanding the state is always our enemy, first and foremost. And we got to teach our children that. We're not enemies amongst each other. We can work out these differences at all times, especially if we got to do with money, a personality conflict, things of that nature, right? Those are contradictions. Blatant contradictions, true. But the state, when the children talk about, about Marcus, you know, I want to be a police officer when I grow up, So we got to cut that out the gate. Basketball player, like a lot of that, obviously I'm right in a city. You know, we can work with that. But when they say I want to be police officer and all that, we have to be very scientific on how we address those issues. You know what I mean? Because oftentimes their parents are police officers and they're law enforcement. So we got to be very scientific on how we deal with that. And I've learned that throughout the years. You know what I mean? So and that got a couple of students. I got a couple of students in trouble too. I think we was going over the Panther Party back in the day, like when we first started. You know, I'm blah, 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 right? Police pig, woo woo, right? So one of the students was in the back seat of the car. Father told me, and the police pulled him over. And you already know what she said. so the police officer say, where did she learn that from? Did you teach your daughter the police pigs? So the little girl, she was probably like 8. She was like, nah, Bob Marcus, Freedom Home Academy say police pigs, right? So having a conversation with dad, you know what I'm saying? That was probably like 2010. You know, I realized that there was certain things and certain ways that I have to teach. So now I have to be more scientific in those ways. We still give them the business though, but we have to be scientific on how we do that now.
Yeah, they have to know, like with these three, we have to, we do let them know what the meaning of occupation in your own autochthon language.
No doubt. But they know about Asada though. They clear on Asada, they clear on Afeni. So the young sisters, they know it was sisters in our history that put work in, like real work in the community, right? So we tell them all the time when we talk about the party, yeah, you see the men mostly, but behind those, it was sisters. It was sisters that ran the party when Huey was locked up. It was the sisters. So we got to be very clear on how to implement sisters in the equation too, because I know for a fact that they're left out in a lot of equations in systems. So you know
these three.
Why do you think the people who have issues at the school itself even want to put their children in your presence?
Say it one more time.
If some of the people who have an issue with you, who want you to fall, why do you think they would want to put their children in your school?
Well, I think a lot of it, if I heard you correctly, you said why do people have a problem with me as a person?
And then put their children in your presence.
Right. That's a good question, but I definitely can explain that. So they understand it's a conflict. I think they're conflicted because I'll give you an example, right? I had a sister come through a walkthrough. We was at the other building, right? She came through a walkthrough, and she kept calling. So my administrator say, this sister keeps calling, but she don't want to make an appointment online. I say, well, let me talk to her. So she say, brother, I heard a lot about your school. I got a 5-year-old. I want to get him in there. I said, well, come on through 9:30 on Wednesday, right? So she come through, and I sit her in the classroom with her son. So her son, he sees this work that the other 3- and 4-year-olds doing. He's 5. He can't do none of that, right? So he started crying. He's crying. I said, oh, little brother, it's all right. What's going on? She starts crying. So we go in the office and go through the walkthrough, and she said, I got a confession to make. I said, what's up? She was like, I had no intention on bringing my son here. I'd heard so many positive things about you, and I found out that you were a black man. I knew something was wrong. So I came just to see if what people were saying, something had to be wrong. She sat there and told me. I said, well, sis, check this out. You're not the only one. You ain't gonna be the last, but it's like 10:30 now. You're gonna spend the whole day with us. And she did. She spent the whole day with us. She's been at the school 3 years. So the whole thing is, most people, and I'm only speaking from my perspective. I don't know what their perspective is. I'm just going by what those individuals have told me later on. Once they've seen the system works, the program works. Without me, the program will still work because it's a program. It's not about me. There's 16 other instructors at the school, not just me. So when students come out ready and prepped, it's not just Baba Marcus. I'm not the only person that teaches at the school, right? So the problem that they have with me is, some people think I'm arrogant. I'm not. They think I'm arrogant. They concerned with what I drive, what I wear. That's all the things that's not important. But those people, they don't last long. They in and out, right? And when I say in and out, one of the issues also is when a student is with me for 3 years, I'm talking about the most least performing of the students. He goes to a public school and he's top of their class. Every time. So what's gonna happen? If he's a young man who is confident about himself, those teachers are gonna label him. And when they start labeling him, the parents wanna bring him back, and it always happens. Never fails. But oftentimes, if it's 10 of those students, 5 of them will swallow their pride and come back. I know for a fact because they're at the school now. And the other 5, they won't. They'll bite the bullet and keep the child there. I know those too. I see them on the street, grocery stores, I see them. Hey, little brother, how you doing? Oh, but Martha, I want to come back, but my dad won't let me. I hear it all the time. Because that's another thing too, that we as Black men educators, we need to talk about this in depth. Black men have some insecure Black men have a problem with another black man teaching their boys, and those boys coming home talking about me. Telling their dad, Bob Marcus walked like this. Bob Marcus said this. Some Black men have told me they have a problem with that. And they pull their children. I don't want no man having that much influence on my boys. That's what it is.
They don't mind if the Caucasian man giving them influence.
They have no mind. They have no mind when they start switching like they teach it. You know what I'm saying? So, but you know what though? We're gonna get through it. We're gonna get through it because there is a revolution happening. It's coming, G. It's coming, and you can see it because Aquaban, take that stuff out the oven for me. You can see it too. You can feel it. The young brothers coming in now, you can't get over on them like I used to. I used to tell them, man, look, one of the brothers, one little brother, he's Southside too. He say, Bob Marcus, you ever gang bang? I was like, no, I'm from Detroit, man. We don't have that like Chicago. He was like, man, my neighborhood, we GDs, right? I was like, word? I was like, yeah. So you know, you know what the party did back in the 60s with Jeff Ford and Hoover, right? He was like, no, what? I gave him a chapter. I Xerox copied the chapter myself when the COINTELPRO papers talks about the unity that the party was trying to make with the El Rookins and the GDs here in Chicago, right?
Right.
So he read it. Young dude read it, right? I'm talking about the read it that night, came back like, man, Bob Marcus, man, I didn't know this. I was like, right. So what we need to start doing is, no, I ain't gonna say we, I'll just say me. This is what I do. When we learn history, the older students learn history, we learn it from a very pragmatic place, right? There's nothing more pragmatic to me than building programs that people can see. Dr. Huey P. say that people learn through observation and participation, right? So when you observe it and you go do it, that's the best way to learn. So when we stand on 79th, 63rd, 87th Street and pass out food, we passing out food for brothers and sisters who ain't got it with those youngins, and the youngins say, man, Bob Marcus, I didn't know it was so many teenagers, man, that's homeless. It's over 13,000 homeless teenagers in Chicago. 13,000. And you crying to your mother about some Jordans? You know what I'm saying? So we passing out, and they seeing this. We do it every winter. They see it. 15, 16 year olds with me. 13, 14. We deep. Walking the block, showing them. Why is it a Arab right here on this corner, and it's all these black people around it? Why can't they start a business? Oh, Bob Mars, they lazy. My uncle lazy. All he do is drink every day, right? Okay, cool, that's good. So now we gotta start breaking that down. We break it down to them. We gotta be real pragmatic, and we gotta be scientific, because oftentimes our shorties, they mimic what we do. When the cats come to the car and say, man, can I get $1? Sometimes we say, man, get out of here, man. We ain't got no money. Now the children looking at it like that. So what we do, we said it before, they mimic us. So what we do, it has to lay claim to how we want them to view us, right? And everything is political. T-shirts we wear, how we rock our hair, the clothes, everything we do is political. The statements that we make. We talked earlier about speaking in war terms to our children. Instead of saying crack, man, that's chemical biological warfare, straight up. Because what does that do? That gives the shorties, they got an idea that, oh, wow. So if it's biological warfare, that chemical biological warfare, that means someone created it. And if it's warfare, who is it against? You. Police brutality. No, it's police terrorism. We use war terms because we are at war, plain and simple, right? And the children, sometimes we think, man, it's too harsh. Man, you see what these children watching and listening to now?
Not on top of that, if you was living in the Congo or say Nicaragua at the time,
yeah,
at 7, 8, 9 years old, you got an AK-47.
Got AK-47 on you. That's right.
You banging.
No question. You banging for real. Right. So we tell on the real, and you said that because when we tell the children who the real gangbangers are, the real gangbangers in Washington, D.C., they're the real gangbangers. It's not us. Because we don't control any means of production. We don't have the power to close or open. You know what I'm saying? So by them understanding that, they gravitate to those points. And of course, they gravitate to lingo too. This a rap. Well, I wouldn't even call it hip hop now. It's something different. But they gravitate to cool phrases and cool terms, right? So, by using those terms as euphemisms, we teach it in class. It's cool. It's cool to be pro-black. Ain't nothing corny about me. It's cool. So you can be that too. What does that mean to have knowledge of self? What does it mean? You know what I'm saying? Let's break it down. to be political. What does that mean? We're not talking about electoral politics. We're talking about controlling the means of operations in our own communities. That's Black businesses, being entrepreneurial, having an entrepreneurial spirit, right? Because those individuals who have those entrepreneurial spirits as children, they grew up to make changes for us. So when you see that homeless guy now, the young dude playing the bucket guys, now you can pull up and say, man, look, I own a Blase Woo down the street. You looking for a job? Then you teach him to open up him one too. And then you teach him to open up another one, as opposed to giving him a couple dollars. But the only way we can do that is we have to have ownership. We have to be the sole controllers of our destiny. And right now we're not. But we can teach shorties how to do it. The book that I gave the children is how to start 100 businesses. No, how to start 10 businesses with less than $100. Let's get going. Let's do it. Let's start creating businesses for the shorties early. How to create LLCs. We got a business law class. I teach business law. We're talking about realty, contracts, LLCs, how to buy a house when you could be under 18 years old, insurance, buying gold as investment, all that the children need to know. But a lot of us, we're being inundated now with these programs that they sell on the internet, how to make your child become a millionaire. Look, we've had millionaires since Madam C.J. Walker now. Being a millionaire ain't gonna cut it. That ain't it. Right. Because all you're gonna do with our culture, you're gonna take that million and make him more millions. So you gotta be rooted in culture and politics, but again, not electoral politics. You gotta be rooted in culture and politics before you start making some money. Because that money ain't gonna do no good for us. It's only gonna benefit the ruling class, and that's what it does. So everything has to exist and pre-exist inside of the African-centered dynamic. It has to. Business, law. We talk about law, we talk about sovereignty, right? All those things. So not just an African history class, everything has to be looked at from an African center.
That's so true. You said it. It's so true. So true.
Oh, okay, okay, cool. He gave me a 10 and what is 40? Okay, cool. 10 minute warning. That's good, bro. Thanks, I appreciate it. So look, now you see I got 10 minutes left. So with the last 10 minutes, what I want to do is I want to focus on how to get since it's being recorded. I want to focus on how to get parents. Matter of fact, let me go get a book real quick.
Golly, Ta, I thought I was the best teacher. See how you do me? You sold me out. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
Okay, good. So where we at? Okay, 9 minutes. So this is the book that I grabbed. This is the good one, right? When We Ruled by Robin Walker, right? It's kind of thick, but don't let it intimidate you. We can break it down. So this is the book, one of the books, we talked about Diop. So this is one of the books that I use for the curation of the African-centered curriculum for pre-K, kindergarten, first, second, and third and fourth, right? So first thing I do is when I get a book, I spoke with Sis last night about being active and being a passive reader, right? I'm not a passive reader. I read for content, and I also read in order to figure out how to create a curriculum and lesson plans for children. That's the only reason why I get a book, you know? So first thing I do is I go to the table of contents. Makes it easy for me. I don't know if you ever see that, but the table of contents, right? So what I ask myself is, let's say I have a third grader, He's third grade. What age is that? 8. Let's say he's 8, right? So the average 8-year-old, you would believe, wouldn't be able to break this book down, right? Some people think it's impossible, right? So this is how we do it. We'll start with 13 weeks. You got to start with a number. So whatever that number is, you might say 6 weeks. So you might say, well, we got a 3-week break, or the summer is what, 9 weeks? Let's say 9 weeks. So you say, well, I'm gonna teach my son or my daughter African history for the 9 weeks we're out in the summer, right? And I'm going to have him do an hour with me every day, just an hour, right? So that's 5 hours a day. That's 25 hours a week times 4. That's 100 hours in a month. 3 months, that's 300 hours, right? When you break it down like that, remember, time equals success. The more time that you put in anything, not just a child. If you study something, but sidebar, whenever I want to learn something, I teach it. So the anatomy, all the bones and the muscles in the body, I didn't know them. I know them now though, because I taught them. So what I did was, I ain't gonna get off topic. I'm gonna stay on this. So look what it says. Let's turn to let's go to chapter 11, right? So I got 9 weeks. So chapter 11 says the West African coast, the Nok, the Igbo, Ukwu, Yoruba, Great Benin, Congo, ancient Ghana, Mali, Shanghai, right? Now look, we have the start of our 9 weeks right there. My first week, we're gonna do the Nok. That's Central Africa, close to West Africa, right? Then the second week, we can do Igbo. Third week. Now, we got our 9 right there. Or is that 9? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's only 8, right? So we just take these 8. Those are my weeks. Now I wrote those down, right? I wrote all 8 of those down. First week, so week 1, the Nok. So I go to it. That's page 313. Now look what it says. First paragraph. First paragraph says, in central Nigeria, a hitherto unsuspected culture bloomed between 1000 BC and 1000 AD. Woo! Look, just off that one sentence, right? Check this out. Just off that one sentence, I can read that to a third, 8-year-old. We read that to an 8-year-old, right? So I have him read it. It's words in there that he's not gonna know. So what do we do with those words? That's his weekly vocabulary. His first vocabulary word is gonna be Nigeria. His second vocabulary word is gonna be Central. His third vocabulary word is gonna be hitherto. The next is culture and whatever else he doesn't know. That's his vocabulary, right? And we do those vocabulary, what we say, an hour every day. We're gonna start off our hour with the vocabulary words. Hitherto, unsuspected, culture, Nigeria, right? Boom. Now you're gonna give him to read. I guarantee you by Wednesday, he'll read the first 3 sentences by himself. Why? Because you just did. You started with vocabulary. Let's say you're doing at 9 o'clock. You say 9 o'clock to 10 a.m. every day, right? At 9 o'clock on the head, boom, vocabulary. Bam, 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 right? He ain't gonna know him, but you're gonna help him. Now at 9:05, we're going right to read. Okay, Jamar, read the first sentence. Boom, boom. First day, you're gonna have trouble. Now look, remember that one sentence, right? Check this out. How many minutes I got? Oh, my bad. 3 minutes. So you do 1000 BC to 1000 AD. You draw it on your board. You just developed a timeline. That's math and subtraction. Now you say BC means before common era. That's another vocabulary word. AD means Anno Domini, right? After death. So now you got vocabulary words all over the place now, right? This only the first week though. we about to start really rolling when we start identifying 1,000 over here, 0 in the middle, and 1,000 on the other side. So you asking him now, adding and subtracting. That's one sentence. Wait, we're not finished. We said Nigeria, right? So we say the capital of Nigeria. Geography now, right? What else we say with Nigeria? Where is it located on the map? You're layering. You can take a paragraph and stretch it out for a whole month. But they'll be able to read it because you're breaking it down, you're piecemealing it. But those pieces come together. Remember, words, phrases, sentences, paragraph, books. And that's my time. I appreciate you listening. The L's, I'm gonna see y'all December 8th.
Yeah. Intro to O. And my dude, that Timbuktu to Ave. For renew your passion, shun the condition. And not the who, what, when, where, and you are from. At last. Put the higher in hierarchy. Climber, paint a picture, no crime, repping Garvey, and all that's godly. Sorry, I can't relate, I'm warrior Masi. Zulu pull up on Fasi and catch a body. Enemies near and far declaring.